Hey, what's up, everybody? So, just a few minutes ago, I was just after stepping out of the shower, had an encounter and and then I started thinking and wanted to share what I was thinking about. So, panicking, panic attacks, panic. Let's talk about panic. Well, first thing, I guess is kind of obvious is that panic happens out of fear. Panic is when your body goes into fight or flight mode. It's when it's preparing itself to defend itself, either by fighting or by running away. So, what usually happens, the chain of events that lead up to a panic attack are the first thing is something to cause fear. And this can be from outside of us, like, predator or bully or whatever. Or it could be from within us as well. And from within, when it happens from within, it's usually with thoughts, what we're thinking of, what is our attention on. So the chain of events that leads to a panic attack usually is something that causes fear. Then the second stage is an adrenaline dump, usually, where adrenaline floods the body. And this is instinctual response. So for a lot of us, this is the stage that's difficult to control because um, for many for many of us, for most humans, it's part of our DNA, part of our genetics. When we have a life-threatening fear facing us, adrenaline is released, and then our body is pumped full of this, adrenaline, ready to fight or run away. So the first stage is something happens to cause fear. The second stage is adrenaline is released into the body. And the third stage that leads to a panic attack is when you are not processing or expressing or releasing all this energy that's being built up from the adrenaline. And then you start to worry more. And then it creates this kind of like a cascading snowball effect that you start to worry more and more. And a lot of people feel like they're having a heart attack or they can't breathe because basically your body is so pumped full of adrenaline, your heart rate goes up. The point of that is it's putting you into a state that is immediately ready to be physically active. Like I said, either running away, fight or flight, or to stand and fight. Because if you are an athlete or if you do any sports or anything, you'll know that it can take time to get your heart rate up. You start warming up, you start on maybe the jump rope, you get your heart rate up, and then by the time you're in the middle of your workout, your heart rate is pretty high. Well, with panic attacks, can come when you have that fear, something scares you, you get the adrenaline dump, your heart rate automatically boosts up, but you're just kind of still sitting there. And, your breath starts to speed up. And, all right, so to be able to deal with a panic attack, which is what the whole point of this video is it's important to understand it. All right, so that's one layer of understanding of what causes panic attacks, why they happen. You might ask, well, why am I getting terrified, fear of my life from like maybe public speaking or having to talk, meet my ex again or go on a first date or, things that you feel, panicking and getting anxious and nervous, you know, isn't going to really help with. Like, it would be much better if we could get on a stage and talk in front of thousands of people and not feel nervous and panic. That doesn't help us. But our instinctual, at a genetic level, our fear, like our understanding is still a bit limited because we kind of lump fear in this big cloud of things, and the body just wants to protect you. And it's still remembering from like our caveman times, from when we were nomadic and we were being hunted. An interesting fact. It's a little gross, but it's interesting. I was thinking about it today as well. Is that our body, our limbs, are designed that if they're actually torn off, that the bleeding will stop. Our body is biologically designed for a time that we are no longer living in, really, because like I said, our limbs are designed in a way that if they're torn off, they'll stop bleeding to protect us so we don't bleed to death, and that's designed, primarily from us being, you um, being hunted by bigger predators, bears, whatever, lions, anything that's going to like grab a part of us and try and tear it off. Maybe even dinosaurs. Who knows? But the that's just one example of how our body and the mind as well are still kind of evolving to our society now, because society now, standing up in front of people or going on a first date isn't life threatening. We're not going to die, but our body just kind of sees it as fear, and just, oh, this is something, you don't want to do, you're afraid of, boom, here's the adrenaline. So obviously what helps is if you can train yourself to not see that as a life threatening thing, and to condition yourself that it's okay. And how you would do it is by facing your fears, by doing more public speaking, by making mistakes, when you do public speaking, and just keep at it. That's why you'll always see like the best athletes, the most successful people, the best entrepreneurs are the ones that fail 99 times, but stand up, get back up on their feet 100 times. Those are the most successful people. They're the ones that just keep going and keep going. Facing your fear is very important. And then the more and more you face it, the more you realize this isn't something that I need to be afraid of. Because your body will realize that you're not dying, you're not getting killed. And you will start to recondition yourself. Okay? So understanding how panicking happens is important. It comes from the fear, it comes from the adrenaline dump, and then absorbing and not releasing all this nervous energy that's there to defend us. It's also important to remember that while panicking is instinctual, it can also become a habit. So for there's a lot of people out there who are always having panic attacks. They're always, having anxiety. They're always afraid. And, at the end of the day, all our fears go back to the root fear of all. The mother fear of all fears is death. And like you'll say, well, why am I afraid of death if I'm, you know, going on a date and I'm so nervous? Well, because it traces itself back, because you're going to think, well, I need to find a mate. I need to find a mate to reproduce. If I don't reproduce, my species is going to die, or my family or my tribe is going to be weaker. So there's a legitimate trace back to our core, fear of death. And you can, if you're clever, you can like kind of sit there and trace almost all of your fears back to that root fear of death. Okay, so by doing more, facing our fears more, we train ourselves that, hey, I'm not going to die. This is going to be okay. So, when I was dating again after my breakup, I was so nervous. Like I remember I went on a date, my first date, which funnily enough was the same day that I decided to go on my first date, was the day that my ex wrote back and wanted to be back with me, which is amazing, but that's another story. But my first date, yeah, we went hiking, and it was cool. I was extremely nervous, and then I remember there was a point where after our hike, we still wanted to hang out. We went to the beach, and then we went to a restaurant to eat something. I remember she was sitting in front of me, and I just remember feeling this extreme anxiety and discomfort because this person was not my ex, right? So I've gone from a long relationship to now I'm sitting in front of someone romantically, and it just felt so wrong. I'm not going to analyze that right now, but then I started to panic and think and overthink, and then it becomes a spiral. But by that point, I had already been learning a lot, and I was able to calm myself. And I'm going to go into that towards the end of the video, like the techniques that will help you through panic attacks, and more importantly, to avoid them and to distance yourself from that place where panic happens. Okay, and it's very easy, and all my videos will help with that too, because it's all about focusing on positive thoughts and making a habit of positive thoughts. Because being nervous and being anxious and having panic attacks can become a habit. Okay? After a while of like having lots of panic attacks, you should start to use your wisdom and realize that I'm not dying. I'm not having a heart attack. I'm not going to run out of breath. Okay? And then you should start to have faith more in the fact that it's just a panic attack. But I'm going to come in a second to like how to deal with it. I just want to wrap up a couple of notes that I made here. So panicking is instinctual, but it can also be a habit. And just before I leave this topic, I want something that I find interesting. Another reason I believe why we panic and feel this traumatic experience, the nerves and anxiety, is to remember. Because I think, let's say you have a loss, you lose someone to death or whatever, or you go through a breakup, or whatever, if you're bullied, whatever experience that you had, that when you have the panic or adrenaline or that extreme fear, it's almost like a timestamp, and it's helping you through trauma, through this incredibly traumatic feeling. It's helping you to remember. And the point of remembering the traumatic experience is so that you can learn, and you can use that knowledge to help protect you in the future. So I also think that that's another reason for why it happens, is so that we learn. But again, you don't want it to allow it to become a habit. So I've written down a few notes on how to deal with panic attacks. As I said, the best is to avoid them. And the way you would avoid it is through constant daily journaling, doing your gratefuls in the morning, gratefuls at night, journaling negative thoughts, and counterbalancing them, as a lot of my clients, private coaching clients, will know and who are doing. Keep that up. Keep less negative music. All the stuff that I always talk about. So that's all going to help with this tremendously. That's going to help with everything in life. But here's like a few things that I have used, like a little survival kit for me, because I had a period of time, and it was linked to my breakup, that I had panic attacks for the first time in my life. But thankfully, I learned to overcome them, and I haven't had one for now maybe nearly 2 years, which is good, and it's behind me. I'm not saying that I'm never ever going to have one again. I could, you never know, but at least now I've been through it and I've learned how to get out of it. And the first and foremost thing is it happens when, let's see what I've written down here. Yeah, okay. it happens when you feel like you're losing control. That's when you start to panic. It's when your thoughts are stronger than your attention. That's why our work that we talk about, or I talk about on this on this channel a lot, is how to strengthen your attention, master your attention. When your thoughts become stronger than your attention, or actually to more correctly, precisely say, because your thoughts never get stronger or weaker. They're always just thoughts. It's all about your attention. So it's when your attention becomes weaker that your thoughts start to overpower and can kind of fool you into thinking that they're in control. But they're always going to be doing what they're doing. You're going to be fine. They're going to come up with all these stories like of fear and blah, blah, blah. You're going to die. Oh, you're going to run out of air or whatever. And you're just going to kind of be watching these thoughts going, what else? What else? Whereas what you really need to do in this situation is have some strengthened attention through the exercises we talk about, and then use your attention to focus on something simple. So it can be your breathing, it can be anything, your presence, it can be think of your favorite movie, think of your favorite food, think of anything, yeah? But it's up to you to have that attention, that power of attention, and to build that over your time. And the more stronger your attention will become, then the easier you'll be able to like take your focus off. And as soon as you take your focus off the fearful thoughts, the negative thoughts, it will dissolve the anxiety. It will help, okay? So that's a big help. Another big help is a lot of people, when they start to get that adrenaline dump and they start to panic and all of this, is they're, like I said, you have all this energy and it needs to be released. So actually, running around a little bit can help, doing some push-ups can help, trying to release that energy can help. But even better is just to allow it. Like, I remember when I was going through this and I was trying to learn and figure out and study and how to get through panic attacks or anxiety attacks, that a lot of places were saying to like breathe slowly or put a paper bag over your mouth. All these different things that I looked up and tried out. And there's tons of things, and some things are going to work for you, some things are not. You've got to find the one that fits you well, and I can only share what worked for me. And what worked for me was nothing actually that I had seen online. It was just, I guess I needed something from myself. And for me, it was if I have that fast breathing and that rapid heart rate rising, just not, rather than trying to slow down my breathing, control my breath, rather than to do that, just put your awareness on your breath and let your breath do whatever it wants to do. That helped me a lot. So, for example, I would be hyperventilating, which is when you're like, and you start to actually take in too much oxygen into your body. So you start to feel really uncomfortable. You feel like you can't take a deep breath. You feel you can't breathe because it's not that you're running out of oxygen, it's that you have too much oxygen. So they tell you to put a bag over your mouth so that you start breathing more carbon dioxide, less oxygen, and it balances it makes you more relaxed. But for me, like I said, I was seeing most places saying, take deep, slow, long breaths. But this was not helping me. This was making me more panicked. And so what worked for me was just basically saying, I'm going to allow my body to do what it wants to do. And so I would allow myself to breathe fast. And I would just relax and I would just watch my breath. And that's what I think I think through this, I realized and I learned what true meditating isn't to control your breathing by controlling the in and out. No, it's just to watch your breathing, to allow the breathing to happen and just to observe it. And it's not an easy thing, but you can get the hang of it. It's just about relaxing. finding as Muji says, which I love, he says, finding that state of effortlessness within you. Okay, so when having panic attacks or build up to the panic attack, it's all about your thoughts. So try to focus on something simple that's like positive, that's going to make you feel better. Try to allow the energy and the breathing and everything to just happen. Don't worry about it. Don't try to resist it. And if you can, release it. Have a little run, jump around a little bit, or just lay down and, have faith that everything's going to be okay. You're not going to die from a panic attack. Nothing bad is going to happen. It's going to pass. Okay? And tell yourself that this is going to end. This will end. All right? There's one more thing that I will maybe save for another video, but this was a very, very powerful thing for me that helped with my panic attacks. But I'll save it for another video, another time. Another one, you can watch. There's a lot of other tips and tricks out there that I'm not going to go into all of them. I'm just going to share my own ones that worked for me. But yeah, prevention is always the key. So, keep your mind strong, keep your attention strong. Let's see what else I have noted down here. Focus on something simple. Thoughts start taking over, and having enough panic attacks to realize that nothing's going to happen. Nothing bad's going to happen. It's going to end. Allowing the fast breathing. Don't try to breathe in a certain way. Just allow your body to do what it needs and having the faith that everything's going to be okay. Cool. So I think I've covered most of what I wanted to talk about with panic attacks. So panic attacks are instinctual sometimes, or a mix of these things. Instinctual, they can become a habit if you're doing it too much and you've taught yourself to be afraid of everything, so you have to unlearn that or recondition yourself to not be afraid of everything by facing your fears and realizing that you are going to be nervous, you're going to be anxious, it's fine, just have to keep doing it. You fall down 7 times, but get back up 8, okay? So it can become a habit, but you can break the habit, which leads me to my final thing, which is panicking is often, but not always, a choice. And what I want to emphasize on that sentence is that panicking is often your choice. It's in your own hands. 98% of the time, it's a choice. When you feel the fear, you can process it in a different way before you have the adrenaline dump. And the panic comes from the adrenaline dump. Your body gets flooded with adrenaline and you feel, you want to run away or fight, okay? And you're not going to feel good unless you release this energy. You're going to feel, this horrible feeling, sweating, your body heats up, you get red. You want ready to go. You want to run, or fight. So you can prevent the adrenaline dump. But again, for that, you've got to build your awareness through the journaling techniques I talk about, mastering your attention. And then what can happen is some situation will happen, and whereas normally the stages are situation happens, fear, then adrenaline, then you're ready for fight or flight, and if you don't do anything, if you're just standing there smiling, and holding it all in, then you get into this battle with your mind of how to focus on something and not let your fear take over. Okay? So panic attacks, embrace them. They're not your enemy. They're there to help you run away, protect you. But you have to help yourself too. Help yourself evolve. And we can do it mentally. Train yourself to not be afraid of things by affirmations, journaling, telling yourself, there's nothing that I'm afraid of. And the ultimate people of all are the ones who aren't afraid of death. They're not afraid because that's the ultimate fear of all. Once you learn to embrace and be okay and not afraid of death, the ultimate fear, all other fears melt away. Okay, guys, so have a great day, and I hope this video helps in some way. Probably going to stop recording now, and then literally a minute later I'll be like, I forgot to say that or this. But hopefully I got everything in there. And if not, I'll be making more videos in the future. But have an awesome day, and thank you guys for tuning in. Adios for now.